Okay, let's see. Haven't done anything like this. I never very much of it, but I haven't done anything in a long time. I want to talk about uh, the mechanisms of the 2020 election. I mean, it matters because we're going into 2024, and 2020 has never been properly addressed. There are so many things wrong with it, and you might, I don't know what you're going to think of it. You might find it surprising, you might not. That I'm going back to the Trayvon Martin thing, just as an example, and also how we've been. I guess they like the term gaslighting lately, or they, whatever, who they are, I don't know, but the term gaslighting is popular. Gaslighting, deceiving, manipulating, however you want to put it. The mainstream media and why they act in such concert is kind of hard to understand, except it's kind of like a cult or Spanky's Clubhouse. I remember Little Rascals, and you have to conform to fit in, and then there are certain manipulators up at the top that dictate what the narrative is, but they don't say it explicitly. They just kind of set the tone. What's the face that O'Keefe from Project Veritas, before he got how would you say it, koshered out of Project Veritas. He went and he got access to the CNN morning calls with Zucker when he was running CNN, and recorded them, and it was like listening to a psychopath leading a cadre of sycophants who just were automatically saying how they were going to present things in order to craft this maniacal narrative that was false. I mean, they weren't saying it was false, but it was clear it was like a psychopathology, like that they were just putting out things that weren't true as if they were true, and saying, this is what I'm going to say, and it was clear they were crafting a narrative. It's hard to explain because I haven't started yet. I wasn't even going to mention that. It just came to mind while I was talking. Anyway, so the Trayvon Martin thing is a good example, and it also is historically relevant to how things developed. I know it goes back a long ways now, but that, when it first happened, I didn't even know what was going on. I was going to the gym, and I was seeing up on the TV screens that didn't have any sound, pictures of this angelic little black boy, a little teenager who just, he looked young and innocent and harmless, and then this other guy who looked like, I couldn't really place his ethnicity, but I didn't count him as a white Anglo-Saxon or whatever you want to call us. And I guess they call me Northwestern European by my 23andMe, 100% pure of Northwestern European, not just European, but Northwestern. That's kind of cool, but that's off the beaten path. So he was, that was George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. I didn't know what was going on. I figured, okay, maybe there was some kind of sexual assault or something, and I wasn't paying a lot of attention. Then I heard the story about what had happened. So I got curious, and I started looking into it, and what they were saying on the news compared to what I was able to establish by looking at the police reports and looking at the other evidence of looking at maps and the 911 calls. They distorted the 911 calls. They clipped it up and made it sound like he was making a racial comment when he wasn't. and they lied about that and continued to lie. They got everybody inflamed. They weren't telling the truth. And it was clear that Trayvon Martin had attacked George Zimmerman, and that Trayvon Martin was probably up to no good. He had a history of being up to no good. He was older, bigger, and had adopted a gangsta persona. And he was a kid, and it's a shame what happened to him, but he brought it on himself. I mean, I've done wrong things. I've done wrong things when I was a kid, and I almost got myself killed doing stupid stuff. And you know, it's not that I can't sympathize with a kid, but he got himself killed. But the media just spanned it and lied. They continued to lie. I mean, I had already established beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on the available evidence, which I examined and examined closely, that the narrative that they were presenting was not true, and they were making it out to be this big race crime, this big hate crime, this big, you know, white oppressor, George Zimmerman, who's eighth black and half Hispanic, they counted, his father counted him as Hispanic because that was his first language. I guess if that's your native tongue, the tongue you learned from your mother, and then and your grandmother, who was, I guess, half black, that makes you Hispanic. I mean, that was the argument they gave. But anyway, you know, they tried to make it into this thing that it wasn't, and they succeeded, and they got all these protests, and people got killed, and all kinds of disruptions, and you know, the race hustlers like Crump and what's his name, Jesse Jackson, all them, and Sharpton, that little freaking off-white huckster. I mean, God, you know, I hope I'm not cursing too much in this. I didn't mean to curse, but whatever. I'll tell you what should have happened is people should have been told the truth, known the truth, and examined what had happened, and say, how could we have given this kid a better direction than the one that he took, and how could we have prevented this from happening by having a better social structure and you know, better guidance for the kid, and better protection. I mean, there's all different facets. You know, better protection for the people who are victims of crimes, and better formative environments. Frederick Douglass said something about it's a lot easier to produce strong children, or you know, to form strong children, than it is to repair broken men, and that's what we should have been focusing on, not on the lie that this was some kind of a racial thing, and that Trayvon Martin was just this innocent little kid who was walking home from buying Skittles and iced tea. Michael Brown, I didn't follow the Michael Brown thing as much, but it's the same type of thing. Media lied, said there's all kinds of racist cops doing this, killing people, innocent people, hands up, don't shoot, and it all turned out to be a lie. And then the Philando Castile thing, go back to Trayvon Martin, one thing about that, Barry Zero. When Obama got elected, my circumstances were that I was living with a bunch of black people in Washington, D.C. And I was neutral. I'm like, okay, I don't know what this guy's about. All the other guys are crooks. I have no love for Clinton and Bush. And oh boy, have I learned more since then that makes me despise those fine individuals more than ever. But I was like, okay, let's see what this guy's got. I wasn't saying, I don't like him because he's black. I was saying, hey, yeah, great, we got a black president. He seems competent. Let's see what he does. But that person who was the president of the United States came out and said, "Oh, Trayvon Martin, he'd be my son if I had a son. Oh, it's horrible what they did to him. This needs to stop. This, and made it out to be, like he knew what happened." That's the first thing. He took a side before the facts were in. That is not what a leader is supposed to do. That is not what the leader of a nation should do if he's competent. It is to take a side on a controversial issue before the facts are in. But he did it, and he did it in such a way as to divide and inflame. And that's why I call him Barry Zero. Well, there's more to it, because him smoking weed in Harvard. Now, that son of a bitch was smoking weed in Harvard, so listen what we got. I didn't inhale. The lying son of a bitch, cocaine running. And then we got, well, I had a few parties at Harvard, cocaine, George Bush, smoked weed, and Barry Zero smoking weed in Harvard. Got a video of him. That's what we call himself, Barry O. Well, I just figured that O means zero. Smoking weed in Harvard, talking about how the Constitution is like a rolling paper. And I got kicked out of the United States Army. I got honorable discharge, which is really bizarre. It was a lieutenant, not lieutenant colonel, Colonel Tedesco. Was it Vincent James Tedesco, I think's his name, something like that. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but the worthless piece of manure that traitor to the Constitution of the United States of America, and that just lowlife person who should not be breathing air in the United States of America put me out of the Army on the charge of having smoked marijuana prior to entering the service. And I said, "Sir, well, you're doing this because of what I said about my race. And if a black man had said just identical things regarding his race, he would not be kicked out of the Army." And that piece of freaking said looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're absolutely right." In other words, he's treating me differently on the basis of my race for things that I had said which were not actionable by the standards of the United States military. That's why he had to go with the marijuana charge, having smoked marijuana prior to entering the service. Even though subsequently the only president that hasn't smoked marijuana is Donald J. Trump, who would probably be who is the least of my problems among those swinehounds. So then we get to Philando Castile, or however you say his name. Now, he drew on the cop. He had a gun in his lap, and it's clear to me that he was getting ready to shoot that cop. And even if he wasn't, he did not comply with the orders of the police officer. When the video finally came out, we saw that. But the media took it, that decrepit side-hoe that was with him, who streamed his death live on Facebook, who claimed, "Oh, he's a good man, he's innocent, he hasn't done any harm." She made videos of her mothering skills, and she just an abysmal, wretched person. Looking at this, she's drinking. She's talking about how she's pregnant and she's drinking her Henny, and she's just abusing her child. Wants to play and have attention, and she's making a video and talking about how annoying and how annoying her child is, while her child saying, "Mommy, I want to play." And then of course Barry Zero come wade in again, say, "Oh, this has to stop." They didn't tell you the cop who shot Castile was Hispanic, but he is Hispanic. Then we get George Floyd, another lie. I mean, I originally thought what other people were saying. Now, here's the thing about that. The IDF have been training U.S. law enforcement in their techniques that they've developed in their continuing oppression and abuse and tyrannizing over the Palestinian people, which I'll tell you something about your ideas of, lockstep political alignment right there. For me. But I assumed that constraint method that Chauvin had used was sanctioned by the Minneapolis PD. And apparently it was, according to the mother of the black officer, black, mixed race, whatever. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say or supposed to say regarding his race, but he's a man of mixed African and European heritage, and he seems like a very decent human being who was completely screwed by the mob rule that has taken over the United States of America. And his mother said, she looked into it, and sure enough, that constraint method was part of their training, and the Minneapolis PD basically excised that part of the training manual from what they had online to hide the fact. And then everybody knew that he was the George Floyd. I mean, everybody, the coroners and everybody knew that George Floyd had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his blood at the time. And come to find out, the EMTs got lost on the way. The police had called the EMTs right away and trying to get George Floyd medical attention because they sensed that something was wrong with him. They thought he had OD'd. And so they kept him pinned down because the EMTs didn't get there. Now, arguably, Chauvin should have rendered aid at some point, but I don't know if that would have done any good. But the fact of the matter is, George Floyd killed George Floyd with fentanyl. Chauvin didn't kill George Floyd. And those facts were out pretty early on. But they were covered up by the media. The media still hasn't addressed that. Sean Hannity, he went and just, he crucified Chauvin with the lie that Chauvin had killed George Floyd, and he knew better. I know he knew better. And Chauvin was convicted by mob rule. He wasn't convicted in the court of law. He was convicted by the intimidation of the mob and the lies of the mainstream media and just the fervor of vindictiveness, factless vindictiveness. And that, set the entire nation on fire with an insane amount of just violence and intimidation and lawlessness. And it also set us on the path where the kids have been ransacking stores. They don't even feel like they need to obey the law or respect property or anything like that. They can just go out and do a store, and I've seen them do it in person. They walked into the CVS over there on 14th Street and Columbia Road, maybe, where the VA shuttle bus picks you up to go to the hospital. And I watched those kids. Only saw one of them actually doing it, but I heard them in the other aisle, just walking up and down the aisle, knocking stuff off the shelves. And one little girl, she's about, I'd say 12 years old maybe, come around the corner, and I was standing there looking at, I don't remember, but I was looking at something, trying to read labels and stuff. So I was standing still, and she didn't notice me. She's walking up the aisle, just had her hand up, just boop, 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 knocking down everything on the shelves. Just out of, I don't know what. I mean, it was just, I guess, to be cool with the other kids, to fit in. And she looked up at me when she noticed me like a deer in the headlights. And I didn't say anything. I might have said hello. And she just turned around and walked away like, I know I'm wrong. And the security guard was right there. But he couldn't do anything. What the hell's he going to do? He can't. If he puts his hands on them kids, he, he'll get charged. The company will get sued. He'll probably go to prison, and the kids will be the victims in the eyes of the media. And so, and they've done it all over the city. A lot of stores have closed down. There used to be a Walmart right down the street. I'm in D.C. I'm close to the Capitol building. There used to be a Walmart, pretty good one, right down the street. And they just robbed it blind until they shut down. And then the people are going to turn around and say, oh, well, we're not adequately served because of the ethnicity of or the ethnic makeup of the community, and it must be racism and discrimination, never mind the fact that it was that allegedly underserved segment of the population who's responsible in so much as you can attribute responsibility to a specific ethnic group or sector of society. But if they want to count in those terms, then let's count it all. So anyway, that set everything in motion. Then we had this COVID, which is another thing. I mean, COVID, the way they trickled it out and all, they were acting like it came from a wet market. And good God, I saw a video of a Chinese wet market, and no thank you, I don't want that in my country. That's pretty gross. But it wasn't. It was from the Wuhan lab, and when I looked into it, somebody had published the DNA structure, the genetic code of the various viruses, and it was a hybrid, what is it called, Camia, of various viruses that they had extracted from different caves. Some 2 or 3 of the strands maybe came from a cave in Wuhan where these what are they called? I can't remember the word. Gao something. Batshit. These batshit miners were in there, and I guess they used it for phosphorus. They used the bat dung or whatever you want to call it. I call it shit because that's a good old Anglo-Saxon word for batshit. They took those DNA strands and they melded them together. They were trying to make a more what do they call it? Gain of function. They were trying to make a more virulent form of the pathogen, and they did it in the Wuhan lab. And it's, they were trying to say, well, they merged together accidentally. No, viruses don't do that. It's not recombinant, or you don't do the same thing that happens with sexual reproduction. Viruses are just copy. So you don't get 2 of them stuck together and like mating. They ain't boy virus and goes make coochie with the girl virus and make a new virus. That ain't how it works. But that's what they were trying to say happened. But I think they said that in that paper just so they could get the strands out. But I read it and said, oh, it don't happen like that, but they say it happened like that, so somebody been doing it. They crafted that thing. So, but they trickled that out. Now it's pretty well known. I mean, I think those who've been paying attention are now convinced that it was, in fact, produced by the Wuhan laboratory as part of gain-of-function research, was funded by the United States NIH. Now, what the? Huh? Why? It's basically a biological weapons lab that the United States and Dr. Fauci and I don't remember what the name of the company is. I wasn't prepared for this. But anyway, had funded this thing, and then they tried to cover it up. And Fauci ain't paid a bit for that. How many deaths and how much damage did it do to the economy? I mean, geez, they got that pictures of Jim Jones. This is one of them things where, Jim Jones, the guy that got people to drink all that poison Kool-Aid way back when. And they got a picture of Fauci and Jim Jones saying, I got, however, 900 people or something to drink my Kool-Aid, and there's Fauci just saying, hold my beer. And that's about how it looks to me. Anyway, so they use that as a pretext. They shut everything down. That I couldn't believe it. I really did not believe that they shut everything down. And oh my God, what it did to me, because I was on the road. I was homeless. And so I was going to the gym every day to shower, and I wasn't able to do that. Well, I stayed in a hotel I thought it was going to be over in a week or two, because that's what they were saying. Hey, flatten the curve and it'll be over. Yeah, bullshit. So they trickled that thing out. So I stayed in a hotel for a little while, and I guess I didn't shower right before I left the hotel, figuring that I'd get back to the gym. And I never did get back, so I got scabies from the hotel. Oh my God, that is the nastiest thing. And it was bad because I had no clue what was happening. And by the time that I realized that I had it, it was all over my body and it was infested deeply. I could show you the pictures. Oh my God, they're ugly, scary, and it was a miserable experience. But anyway, that's me. So they use that to shut everything down. They use it to manipulate the election. Oh, we're going to have all this mail-in balloting. And they were already on the road to mail-in balloting. I couldn't believe it again. That is just insane. You can't, there's no control over balloting anymore. Our elections are the most insecure third world cluster, you know what, that you can imagine. And then there were all kinds of other things going on. First of all, the FBI hid the Hunter Biden laptop evidence, which should have been there. That's a compromised, first son. The public has a right to know about that. That is classic vulnerability, a national intelligence vulnerability, to have a compromised relative, close relative. And he was so compromised, and the laptop is real, and they haven't addressed it, and never mind Epstein, and the fact that the FBI has not gone after any of his clients, and they know who they are, and they're protecting these people, probably still blackmailing them. So then the FBI conspired with big tech. And it's unmistakable they were going to big tech and say, hey, we're going to get this dump of Russian propaganda about, Hunter Biden's laptop. And like, it's fake news, don't publish that. And then they were, going in. And still, I think throughout the Biden administration, they were contacting big tech saying, hey, this looks like disinformation, please take it down. Just ordering big tech, who was complying, to take down content that they deemed undesirable or fake news. They didn't counter it with facts. That's what you're supposed to do in a free society, is counter it with facts. But anyway, they didn't do that. And then the big tech was clearly biased. The executives of big tech, Zuckerberg, he paid millions of dollars to manipulate election results, and the people, I got my account banned at critical times or suspended at critical times, and a lot of other people did. And then I saw purges. People they did a whole sweep in 2019 of a whole bunch of people just systematically swept off of the big tech platforms for having dissenting opinions. And they were filtering. They were what do they call it? It's not squelching, but limiting the reach. There's another word for it, but preventing people from being heard. That that they were preventing the posts of people who were popular. They were not disseminating the content as they normally would. They were filtering it and preventing people from getting information, reducing the flow of information, in some cases to a trickle, where only, some people have to still actually pick out the people they want to hear them and send directly to them on Facebook. So anyway, so that bias is there. And then what they did to Parler, just because they thought Trump might get on Parler, they took a $500 million market capitalized company, up and coming, competing with all. They said, go out and make your own company. If you don't like these, make your own. Well, big tech conspired to crush that company. There's no question about it. And they did it because they thought Donald Trump, who they were trying to ban, because Donald Trump said the election was stolen, which he was absolutely right, the election was stolen. They crushed that company. They destroyed that company. And you people on the left, you just, it's okay because I don't like Donald Trump. He's orange. Then Bill Barr, that's the thing. And it gets right back to, I haven't used the term deep state yet, but Bill Barr is, he's part of the CIA bankster, deep state, cocaine running, elite pedophile, Epstein, Clinton, Bush, CIA organized crime, kleptocracy ruling the United States of America. He is a total insider. His daddy hired Epstein when Epstein dropped out of college to teach at the elite Dalton School. Well, I can't say his daddy actually hired him, but his daddy ran the Dalton School when Epstein was hired to teach there. So, I mean, what? Bill Barr's got ties to Epstein going all the way back there? What the hell is going on with that? And Epstein's tied to the Israeli Mossad and CIA and all that, and Iran-Contra, which ties you to Bush and Clinton and cocaine and all that, massive cocaine. We ain't talking about enough to buy guns for a little rebel army down there in Central America. They could have bought aircraft carriers for that army with the amount of cocaine they brought in the country and killed hundreds of thousands of Americans with it and destroyed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans. But anyway, that's... Bill Barr's one of them. He's on record before Donald Trump even announced that he was running. Long before that, Bill Barr was already identified as the person who told Bill Clinton if he could cover up what was going on in Arkansas and get the money laundered, they would put him in front line for the presidency. I want to say Casey was head of the CIA. I don't remember who's the head of the CIA. The CIA that George Bush never had anything to do with until he was like the director. Bullshit. He was born into the CIA. He shot Kennedy, as far as that's my best guess. I'd say, well, some guy named Files or somebody else. I think George Bush was the trigger man on Kennedy. I know he had something to do with it. And so when the election happened, people were terrified of the mob. So they wouldn't stand up to it. The judges wouldn't stand up to it. Law enforcement. Nobody would stand up and say, hey, this shit ain't right, what's going on with this election, because they were afraid the mob was going to come to their house and burn it down. And there were just so many irregularities, like, down in Georgia when they had the water main break that never happened, shut down the counting and cleared the building, so who knows what kind of hanky-panky went on inside that building while nobody was watching. And then the videos show pretty clearly that they fished out some ballots that hadn't been counted after they sent everybody else home, and nobody's ever explained that. They said, oh, well, it's all been addressed and it's all been debunked. No, it ain't been debunked. But anyway, so that's where we are. I don't know why people aren't taking the narrative that I'm giving and explaining how all of this is going down. I mean, this was just pretty off the cuff. I had a little cheat sheet of topics I wanted to discuss, but I mean, you could do a much better job than I did if you're professional and took time to do it. I just yammering on. Anyway, that's it. Do I turn this?